What difference does it make? The part of Yaakov Ashdod is played by an actor.
I've asked my friend and colleague Yaakov Ashdod, an international marketing manager with 25 years' experience, to share a couple of stories with us, which we will hopefully be able to learn from. Thanks for coming to talk to us, Yaakov.
Not at all.
I thought perhaps you'd like to tell us about your trip to Japan.
You mean one of my trips to Japan?
Yes, of course, one of your trips. I mean, the Japanese way of doing business is so different from the West. I'm sure you must have plenty of experiences to choose from.
Well, I can certainly tell you about the importance they attach to schedules.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it must have been my first trip to Japan, and I knew I was not going to be met at the airport. So, as soon as I had landed, I went to the information desk to find out about the shuttle bus to the city center.
No taxi?
Why waste the expense on a taxi if there is a regular and reliable shuttle?
Sure.
So, anyway, I asked about the shuttle bus and discovered that they ran every 15 minutes from outside Gate 22 of the terminal. As it was about 7 minutes to 1 in the afternoon, the information clerk sold me a ticket for the 1:15 bus, explaining that the gate was quite a distance away. I do quite a lot of sport when I have the time.
Yes, I know. Basketball, swimming. You're never at home when I phone.
Well, the point is that I pushed my trolley pretty fast through the terminal and made it to Gate 22 at about 1 minute to 1, where the 1 o'clock shuttle bus was waiting. The bus driver saw me arrive and, dressed in his smart uniform, hat and white gloves, got out of the driver's seat, came down the steps, opened the baggage hold, and put my luggage inside. Then he climbed back into the driver's seat waiting for me to get on. So I gave him my ticket, and that's when the whole scene changed. He shook his head excitedly, explained something to me in Japanese, got up out of the driver's seat and off the bus, and took my luggage out of the baggage hold. He pointed at my ticket and explained something for a second time in Japanese. Then he closed the doors of the bus and drove off towards Tokyo City Center at exactly 1 p.m.
Oh, so what had been the problem?
I began to understand that he had refused to take me on the 1 p.m. bus because I had a ticket for the 1:15 shuttle.
And there was no room on the bus, right?
Well, that's the strange part from our point of view. You see, the 1 o'clock bus left the airport completely empty.
What? You're kidding?
No, the bus was empty. But he refused to take me because I had the wrong ticket.
But what difference does it make?
Well, the point of the story is that in Japan, a schedule is a schedule, and documentation has to exactly match the order in every aspect. There are no shortcuts or almosts.
Yes, I see what you mean.
It's not just the Japanese, by the way. I remember I made a bad mistake myself with an American client, assuming that he would ignore what seemed to me to be an insignificant problem.
We'd like to hear about that.
Well, the Americans had ordered 3 container loads of the product in small tins with an unusual shape. The top of the tin was curved.
So? I'm sure you've handled difficult packing before.
Oh, yes, of course. The problem wasn't the packing. The problem we had was with the labels. There were tens of thousands of tins, and each label, which we had specially printed, had to be stuck by hand to the tins. It took a lot of man-hours.
I can imagine.
Anyway, because of the curved shape of the lid of the tins, the labels were not flat on the surface, but there was a kind of small air bubble where the label met the lid of the tin.
Yeah, I get the picture.
I explained this to the customer, thinking it was an insignificant detail. A couple of days later, I got a call from the USA, and this time it was their marketing manager and the purchasing manager on the line. They were very concerned about the air bubble in the labels, saying it was an ugly defect and would make marketing the product difficult. Obviously, I was not happy at the prospect of having to replace thousands of labels, so I tried to convince them that nobody would notice, and even if they did, it was only a small problem with the label, not the product. In any case, we were talking about paint so that once the tin had been opened, the whole tin, including the label, would get covered in paint anyway.
Okay.
Somewhere along the line, I had said, "What difference does it make?" It was right after that that the line went very quiet, and I realized that I had made a big mistake. The client was not used to having his complaint and reasoning questioned in this way. If the client thinks it will make a difference, you must accept that.
You mean you should never argue with a client about what you think is or is not important to him?
Exactly. Telling the client that something is no big deal when clearly he thinks that it is a big error of judgment.
Yes, it's definitely not a good way to try to do business. Well, thanks for those tips, Yakov.
Thanks for having me, and I hope you found it useful.
Very.